it's always a pleasure for me to have you here with me. Barrister David Njoko on reporting to duty. And as usual, what we do here on Accent Radio is to educate, enlighten the public, and bring to your listening pleasure those educative and interesting, juicy topics that is happening in our society, and we'll have legal discourse, give legal background to these very happenings, and then we'll learn from it. That is what we do here on my Assets Litigation, because we love educating the public. We speak law in the everyday language of the common man, so that we make sense of what our Nigerian laws are talking about, so that you know your rights, know your duties, know your obligations, and then always act within the boundaries and the confines of the law. Our topic today is one very interesting, one dear to our hearts, one that just recently happened, and we are going to be looking at the pros and the cons. We are going to be crossing the T's and dotting the I's, making legal sense to that very event that happened. We are talking about no other event than the recently conducted NLC nationwide protest, and we are discussing the Nigerian Labour Congress and the rights to protest in Nigeria. The Nigerian Labour Congress and the rights to protest in Nigeria. Remember, on the 16th day of February 2024, the NLC 2 East communique stated that the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, led by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, having failed to keep up to its 16-point agreement that was signed with the National Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress on the 2nd day of October 2023, that it will be embarking on a 2-day nationwide protest beginning from the 27th of February up to 28th of February 2024. And when this announcement was made about 2 weeks ago, it caused so much ripples, and there was so much debates on it on our national space, where some persons were saying that the protest is needless and is pointless, while some other persons are saying that NLC has no rights to go on protest, and other persons are saying that if NLC goes on protest, it will be tantamount to contempt of court order that was issued far back as July 2023. And then we are trying to make legal sense of all this. What do they mean that when they say NLC has no right to protest? What do they mean when they say NLC, if they protest, they'll be going contrary to a court order in as far back as July 2023, and thereby acting in contempt and in breach of the order of court? We're not going to dive into the issues that are in court, because those are matters of sub judice. But we're going to be talking about the right of Nigerians to protest, because this has brought about the issue of hunger, the issue of pandemic of empty pockets that has led to so much starvation and hunger in the country, especially that has been exacerbated and been pushed to the wall by the removal of fuel subsidy and the devaluation and floating of the Nigerian currency known as the Naira. This has caused several inflations, in both in terms of figures and in terms of food inflation. It has gone astronomically high, that has made daily living so high for ordinary man to cope with, and that is why NLC decided they should go on strike. And then we're asking ourselves the question, what does it mean to go on protest in Nigeria? After the end of today's episode, we are going to be learning 3 important things. The first thing you're going to be learning are those concepts of protest, the legal concepts of protest in Nigeria. We're actually going to be learning and knowing those acts that will constitute violation of the right of protest in Nigeria. And then we're going to be talking and learning about the tips for organizing protest in Nigeria. So if you're ready, let's dive into the discussion. Before we go into the nitty-gritty of it, let's just make a preamble. In every mature democratic setting, what determines the maturity of any democracy in the world is the ability of its citizens of such democratic society, to embark on protesting against the activities and programs and policies of government, and equally protesting against activities of private individuals and entities that has negatively affected their lives. So when people and citizens, indigenous and residents in the country or in the society are able to given the freedom to pontificate, to protest, to speak their mind, with respect to their happenings in their society, by way of conduct, by way of going out on the street with placards and demonstrating their frustration with the policy, then we can say that democracy is a mature democracy, because that's a democracy that allows for diverse opinion and diverse views. And when a society now begins to gag this right of protest, when the society begins to suppress the right of people to come out and then voice their anger over the happenings of government policies, their displeasure with over government policies, then we can say that society, though it's democratic in name, but it is not democratic in principle. So having discussed that, we're going into the very nitty-gritty of our discourse today, which is what amounts to protest and what we need to know, the legal framework for protest. So we get with the number one question. The number one question, which was raised after NLC declared that 2-day strike on the 27th and 28th of February 2024, was that NLC has no right to go on strike. Then we ask ourselves the question, must we embark on strike only as a corporate entity? The answer is no. Both corporates and individuals has the right to embark on strike. In fact, by virtue of the Nigerian 1999 Constitution as amended, Section 40 of it provides for the right to assembly and peaceful assembly and association in Nigeria. What that simply means is that you have the right to assemble anywhere you like, whether in the private space or in the public space, and you have the right to assemble either to assemble as an association, as a amalgamation of group of persons. So as an individual, you have the right to assemble anywhere, whether in public or private space, to voice your anger or to voice your frustration over a government policy or over a policy that is not favoring you as an individual. That is an individual protest. And also as an association or as a group, you have the same right to go out to the streets and then voice your opposition to a government policy or to a corporate policy that is not favoring you. That is what the position of the law is. So it mustn't be a corporate entity or an association for you to protest. As an individual, you have a right to protest. The next question that was raised when NLC declared its 2 days protest is that NLC needs to obtain the police permit for them to embark on such protests. Now the question is, do you need police permit to embark on protests in Nigeria? The answer is no. Even if by the provisions of the Public Order Act of 1979 that you need a police permit that is sanctioned by the governor of the state for you to embark on any protest within the state, by virtue of the court ruling, a court of appeal ruling in 2008 between the Inspector General of Police and the Nigeria People's Party, with the AMPP, the Court of Appeal held that for you to embark on any protest in Nigeria, you need no police permit at all, because asking for a police permit or demanding for a police permit amounts to an infringement or to the gagging of the rights of individuals and citizens to embark on peaceful protests. Now, the next question we ask in the course of this discourse is when you need police protection, do you need to ask for a police permit? Now, what it means that you don't need to ask for a police permit, as we said initially, but when you need a police protection, then you need to notify the Nigerian Police Force for them to give you some form of protection by making available their patrol teams to join you in the protest, just to ensure that the protest is peaceful and is well organized. So you don't need police permits to conduct a protest in Nigeria, just as NLC never needed a police permit to conduct its 2 days nationwide protest. But you will need when you need police protection, then you will need to notify the Nigerian Police Force that you will be embarking on a protest for which they should give you some police protection. That is just so as to ensure that there is no clash between pro and anti-protesters. It's now becoming a norm in Nigeria that whenever organized labor or organized civil society decides to go out to the street to protest government policies, there is always an anti-protest, the way we will call pro and anti-protesters. So the pro-protesters are for government, the anti-protesters are against government. So you always, just as on the 27th day of February 2024, just 2 days ago, there was a pro and anti-protest NLC protest right there at Abuja, where we had the National Nigerian Labour Congress protesting up to the federal secretariat, and then we have another group of civil society organizers who were protesting out at the Unity Fountain in Abuja. So it's now becoming a norm that when you have a protest, there will always be a counter protest by other groups who call themselves civil society organizations. But be that as it may, it is the right of both the NLC and that civil liberty civil society organization to embark on protest. Whether they are pro-government or anti-government, it is within their rights to embark on protest, and that is what we are discussing here today. So either group does not need a police permit to conduct that protest, but they will only need, when they need police protection, then they have to notify the Nigerian Police Force to provide such protection for them. Now, the next question we ask is, what do we do when a protest is banned? Just as we heard when the NLC wanted to embark on a protest, and then the Attorney General of the Federation said the protest will be illegal because that will be running in contradiction with a court order earlier given as far back as July 2023 by the National Industrial Court in Abuja. What happened, assuming the federal government came and said they have banned all protests in Nigeria? Now, it is not for the protesters or the organizers of the protests to not confront the Nigerian police or any security agency that will be deployed to quell such protests. No, what they should do, the organizers of such protests should do, is to approach the court and then seek an interim injunction restraining the Nigerian police or any sister security outfit from disrupting that protest, as long as the protest will be peaceful. They can approach the court and get such interim injunction. Whether the court will grant them the interim injunction is another kettle of fish altogether, but that is the position of the law, where you feel that you preempt that your right to protest will be infringed upon. You approach the court and seek for an interim order for you to be able to embark on the protest, because as you said, protest is recognized as a right, whether within the Nigerian legal rights framework or within international legal rights framework. They are all these very jurisdictions recognize protest as one of the fundamental rights of citizens, and that is one of the benchmark, one of the yardsticks in which we determine a matured and a civilized democratic society. Now we got to the second segment of this very show, which is the issue of acts that constitute violation of the right of protest in Nigeria. Number one of the acts is proposing laws that seeks to restrict the right to free assembly or protest. We have government now begin to prescribe laws by way of executive orders. We can remember the executive orders given by some states during the leading to the 2023 general election, where they restrain and refuse political parties and groups to organize political rallies in their states using public spaces, except they get permits from relevant government agencies. So when such government of the state procure such laws by way of executive orders to frustrate or gag the right to protest or to peaceful assembly in any state, then that amounts to violation of the right of citizens to protest or to assemble within the state. Also, the use of force or firearms to disrupt or to dispel peaceful protesters. Now, when you have protesters who are in peaceful and in orderly manner, and then you have the police swinging into that protest and then tear gassing them or water canning them, so as to dispel such protesters, that is a violation of the right to protest. Who can forget the famous ASUP protest in Abuja in 2014, where academic staff union of polytechnic workers were in the street of Abuja protesting, and then the famous commissioner of police then, CP Joseph Mbu, got into a confrontation with the ASUP members, and then they were water canned, they were tear gassed, and some of those lecturers were equally injured. Nobody will forget that very famous protest in 2014, leading up to the 2015 general election, which was led by the Association of Polytechnic Lecturers in Nigeria. The third act that constitutes violation of the right to protest is the imposing of fines and penalties on organizers of peaceful protest. When you have governors who now prescribe executive orders that prescribe fines for protesters within the Nigerian space, who will forget the administration of Chief Barrister Ezebunyo Yesowike in Rivers State, who imposed fines on defaulters of assembly public space without obtaining the necessary permits from the necessary government agencies and paying the 5 million naira unrefundable caution fee to use public space for assembly. It was a terrible period within that very space for civil societies and political parties and individuals to participate in public rallies and in protests. These laws and these fines constitute a violation of the right to protest in Nigeria. We also look at causing physical harm on peaceful protesters, where you have or even arresting peaceful protesters. Those acts constitute violation of the right to protest in Nigeria. Now, having discussed this, we go into some tips for organizers of protest in Nigeria. I'll be quick on this. Number one of the tip is that organizers of protest in Nigeria should publish the goals, objective, and policy statements that guides that protest. So for the NLC, the protest was all about the reduction of hardship and hunger in the country, that government should intervene. So there should be an objective for that protest. Why should there be protest? Why should that NLC call for protest? Because of hunger in Nigeria. What is the policy statement of that protest? So as to draw the government attention to the reduction of poverty and then provision of food, maybe possibly the release of grains in the National Food Reserve, just so that Nigerians can have food to eat, or to even reduce or to give tax waivers to food items, basic food items imported into Nigeria, so that importers can easily import food items into Nigeria, and Nigerians will have money, affordable money, to buy those food items. Number two, the organizers should liaise with police and other law enforcement agencies such as the Federal Safety Commission Corps to ensure proper coordination of the protest and to provide police protection. It is very important because in this season of pro and anti-protesters everywhere in Nigeria, once any government civil liberty organization or civil society or the Nigerian Labour Congress or the Trade Union Congress decide that they want to go on any protest or any rally against government policy, you will see a group that will come up and say they are pro-government and they are anti whatsoever protest NLC or TUC is embarking upon, and that may lead to a potential clash. So organizers of protests in Nigeria should ensure that they liaise with the police, with other sister security agencies, with the Federal Safety Corps, and if it is in Lagos, with the LASMA, the Lagos State Traffic Management Authority, so that they will ensure that there is smooth coordination of their protests, so that if maybe possibly the anti-protesters and the protesters are given different routes for them to do their rally, so that they will not clash, because when they clash there is potency that there will be violence when they clash, and then that may lead to breach of public peace. Also, there is also need for coordinate such protests so that they will not obstruct free flow of traffic, because just as you have your right to protest and to peacefully assembly guaranteed by the constitution equally guarantees my own right as a road user to freedom of movement, that I should move from one point to another without being obstructed. So where your right of protest, public protest, stops, that is where my right of movement begins. So I should be able to move freely, even if you decide you want to go on protest and exercise your right to protest. So they should liaise with police and sister security agencies to ensure that protest is well coordinated, so that they will not disrupt free flow of traffic. Also, organizers of protests should refrain from provocative statements, mudslinging, and name calling in the course of protest. It is uncultured for organizers of protest in the course of protest to use dirty words, to use insultive and offensive words against political leaders, against the state, and where they will call leaders of the state unprintable names. It is wrong, because those are provocative, those are offensive, and they may lead to possible breach of public peace. Because where you have people calling leaders, maybe calling the president or the governors of the various states names, unprintable names, or slinging in terms of their opposition, then it may lead to other persons who are not aligning themselves with the protesters to be in opposition and then respond to such provocation. And when they respond to such provocation, the end result is breach of public peace. Now, the last but not the least of the tip I'm giving out to organizers of protests here today is that protesters must come up with risk assessment and avoidance strategy. So you have to come up with risk assessment and risk avoidance strategy. One of the risk avoidance strategy is to liaise with the relevant legal authorities, managers of legal authorities like the Nigerian Bar Association, the Federation of Nigeria Female Lawyers, the International Bar Association, and the likes, the civil societies, Nigerian Human Rights Commission. Liaise with them so to provide for you legal backing in case there is a violation of your right to protest in the course of the protest. Then these very organizations can take up the human rights angle of your right to protest and then enforce it before a court of law. And for the risk management, in case there is possible dehydration or exhaustion that will lead to collapse by some protesters, then there is a collaboration. There should be a collaboration with the Nigerian Medical Association or with any other medical guild, so just to ensure that there is enough provision for medical kits and medical facilities when such emergency or such foreseeable risks occur, so that you don't end up having corpses in the course of taking out or embarking on protest. And at this very juncture, we draw the end of the curtain on today's episode of Let's Talk with Asset Litigation. I believe it has been an interesting and educative one where you have already known your rights, that as a Nigerian, even as an individual, you can organize and take part in a protest as an individual. You don't need to come as a unit or as an association to embark on a protest. And when you want to embark on a protest, you don't need a police license or a police permit to embark on such protest. And if you need any police protection, then you need to notify the police to give you such protection. That is the only time when you need to notify the police for protection, when you need police protection, so that your protest will not be hijacked by hoodlums or by troublemakers. You have frequently learned the various activities that will constitute violation of your right to protest. And at this very juncture, we equally gave you tips of how you can organize a peaceful and well-coordinated protest that will send home your message, because every protest should have a protest policy, a policy statement. It should have its aim, and it should have its objective. Until we come again your way next week, same time and same channel. This has been an interesting edition, and as always, we want to get your feedback, comment and suggestions. So do it to leave your comment and suggestions on the comment section of whatsoever streaming platform you're watching us from, and we will give you prompt response to your questions, and then your suggestions are very much welcome. Do it to go to our YouTube channel. Just click on YouTube, search for Law Asset, click on the subscription button and hit the notification bell to get our daily law tips. Until come again your way next week, remain blessed and keep the hope alive for a better and prosperous Nigeria. From us here in Asset Litigation, it is Bomb.